Okay, here we've got some inequalities, which are like equations, except they've got inequality signs in them instead of equal signs in. Now, with linear inequalities, so just ones with x's and numbers, we can solve them very similarly to solving ordinary equations, but we've got to be very careful with multiplication and division by negative numbers. So let's do these two. Part A is going to be straightforward. We start with 2x plus 3 being greater than 5, and just as with an ordinary equation, we think about how to get x on its own. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides of the equation, and that will give me just 2x here, and 5 minus 3 is 2. And subtracting or adding terms to both sides of an inequality is always allowed, and no special precautions needed. Now, on the next line, I want to get down to what 1x is, so I've got to divide, and I'm dividing by 2. Now, division you do have to be careful with. You have to check the number you're dividing by. This time I'm dividing by a positive number, so that's all right. 2 divided by 2 is going to be 1. I'm dividing by a positive number, so I can leave the sign unchanged. So 2x being greater than 2 means that x is greater than 1, and that is the solution to that inequality. But now let's look at B. So in B, we're starting with 3 minus 2x being less than or equal to 1. Okay, well, I'm going to start by dealing with the 3. So as before, I'm going to minus the 3 from both sides. So on the right-hand side, 1 take away 3 is minus 2. And when I subtract the 3 from this side, this is a plus 3, so that just disappears. But remember, the minus is glued to the 2x, so this is still minus 2x. Subtracting a number I'm always allowed to do, and I never have to deal with the sign. But now I want the minus 2 to go away, so I want to end up with just x here. In order to make that happen, I've got to divide by, this time I'm dividing by minus 2. So on the other side, minus 2 divided by minus 2 will be plus 1. But multiplication or division by a negative number in an inequality is when you have to flip the sign. So the less than or equal to sign becomes a greater than or equal to sign, and this is my answer. And we can check this makes sense, because what I'm saying here is that I need x to be so that when I take double x away from 3, I go below 1. So therefore x needs to be big enough so when 2 of it are taken away from 3, I get down to 1 or below. So the final answer is talking about x being a certain value or bigger than that, which makes sense for the original problem. But the rule you remember is that you can add and subtract normally, but when you multiply or divide, if you're dividing or multiplying by a negative value, that's when you flip the inequality sign.